Connecting community, creating impact. This is the Chamber Link.
Welcome back to the Chamber Link. Good morning, everyone. I'm Katherine Grinberg, Executive Vice President with the FMWF Chamber. I'm excited to be the host of today's episode. We have a great episode ahead of us. We have the Midwest Economic Outlook Summit just a couple days away that we're going to talk more about very shortly here. So our conversation today will be centered around the economy, and I have a few guests joining us today. So I'm excited that we have Eric Garcia Luna with the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis. We have Mike Arntzen with Cardinal IG and Ray Grefsheim with Old National Bank. So we're excited to have all three with us today. I don't know if we have Eric on the phone yet. Not quite. So we're going to get started with the two that we have in studio. So let's do a quick welcome from the two guests that I have in studio. We'll start with you, Mike. Do you want to just tell a little bit about Cardinal IG and yourself? Do a little welcome.
Sure. Well, Cardinal Glass Industries is the nation's leading supplier of glass and glass products for the residential window industry. We built the Fargo insulating glass plant in 1998 to service primarily Marvin Windows, but also other window and door manufacturers in the region like Minn Kota Windows and Midland Garage Doors in West Fargo, and then also some window companies up in Manitoba.
That's awesome. And you're head coach.
That's right. Head coach.
What does head coach involve?
Head coach involves resourcing and setting the team up for success.
Awesome. You do a great job at it over there. So nice job, and a proud board member of the Chamber. So we appreciate having your expertise there as well. Let's hop over to Ray. Tell us a little bit Old National Bank and about you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Catherine. Glad to be here this morning. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Ray Grefsheim, Business Banking Director for Old National Bank, which is a new brand to the North Dakota market. Many of you are familiar with the rich history of Bremer Bank that has been present in the Midwest markets for quite some time. We formed a partnership with Old National Bank a year and a half ago and completed the transition in October of last year. So Old National Bank is similar to Bremer, a bank with a rich history in the Midwest, based in Evansville, Indiana. That's where the bank started in 1834. So we are excited to be new to the North Dakota market. Midwest market is not new to Old National Bank. My role at the bank is Business Banking Director, and so I work with primarily businesses from across the state of North Dakota in the major markets. So we are happy to be here and a proud sponsor of the Economic Summit again this year.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We're going to get more into that in a minute here. I'm going to jump to Eric now, who's joining us on the phone. So Eric has had the pleasure of getting to know Eric Garcia Luna through several years now as you visited our region, Eric. So thank you so much for making time to join the show today. For listeners who might not know much about the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, can you first tell us a little bit about its role as well as your work there, Eric?
Of course. First of all, thank you, Catherine, for the invite to join your show today, and also to the Chamber and to you for the ongoing partnership that we have. You have been key partners in helping us better understand the economy of the region. We could not do our work without you, so we appreciate it. With that, I will just start with the Federal Reserve is the central bank of the United States, as probably all of your listeners know. And when it was created in this somewhat decentralized way. And for that, when those that designed the Federal Reserve, brought it to be, they created, the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve and 12 different regional banks, the ninth of which is the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis. And the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis covers geographically the states of Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, northwestern Wisconsin, 26 counties in northwestern Wisconsin, and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So we have a large territory to cover. And as part of our job as regional economists, we travel all that region. We, as you know, are often meeting with businesses across that region. We are always gathering intelligence that helps us better understand the data and better make sense of what is happening locally so that we can provide that information to our leadership on a regular basis. So I'll leave it at that, and let me know if there's anything else I can add.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a helpful picture to tell listeners a little bit more about what you guys do. And I know you mentioned coming out to the different regions so that you guys can hear directly from the businesses like we have in studio today with Mike and Ray. And we're excited to have President Neel Kashkari joining us at the Midwest Economic Summit coming up in a couple days. Can you talk a little bit about why his voice is especially relevant right now and maybe what we would expect to hear from him, kind of a little bit of a preview before he joins us in a couple days?
Of course. The structure that I described earlier, that 12 district structure that the Federal Reserve has, allows the information that the leadership at the Federal Reserve uses to make their decisions to be informed by more than just a small group concentrated in a geographic area. It allows for the entire country to have a say, or at least provide a picture of what things look like in the region, so that leaders can be better informed about what the economy looks like and make better informed decisions. President Kashkari is one of those voices that is regularly at the table. The Federal Open Market Committee, which is composed of the governors of the Federal Reserve, the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, and a rotating group of presidents from the regional banks, get together and make decisions on monetary policy, better known to your listeners perhaps as making a decision on the interest rates. And when they get together, they get a chance to talk about what it is that they're seeing in the region, and the importance that President Kashkari has in that is he brings the voice of the businesses and workers in the region to that table, and it is that ability to bring that perspective that is perhaps different, perhaps aligns in some ways, or differs in some ways from the rest of the regions, to be able to have a better discussion about what the economy in the country looks like. So that's why he's such an important voice.
That's helpful to understand. And you guys certainly keep a great pulse on the economy throughout the 9th District as well as the full country. Can you give us a little bit maybe of a snapshot on the national economic picture right now? Like, what are the indicators that the Federal Reserve is watching most closely in 2026?
Sure. So the economy, you will hear economists describe it as a very resilient economy. The years following the pandemic brought, very good economic growth across the country. That economic growth continues to be very resilient. As recent as the most recent data we have available is from Q3 of 2025. That number at that point was 4.4%. That's how economic growth was for the entire country, and so it's positive. In the region, growth is a little bit more subdued. That is not unusual. But what I will say about what the Fed will keep an eye on, one thing that I should have mentioned earlier when I described the Federal Reserve is in the 70s, Congress gave the Fed what is currently known as the dual mandate. The dual mandate asked the Fed, you keep an eye on the stability of prices, but also at the same time, you have to keep an eye on employment and ensure that there is maximum employment, defined as anyone that wants to work and is able to work is able to do so, is able to find a job. And in that regard, the Fed is always keeping an eye on the balance of those two parts, those two sides of the mandate. And inflation, I think everybody knows, reached a height of, I believe, 9% as measured by CPI in 2022. The Fed acted to bring that inflation down, and it has since dropped down dramatically, but it does remain a little bit elevated. The Fed would like to see that inflation rate to be somewhere around 2%. The latest reading has it, a little close to that, but it's been over the last few years circling around closer to that 3%. And the Fed is going to be watching where that goes over the next over the next year. The other part of it is they will be watching also the labor market. So again, they're constantly looking at the balance of those two pieces of the mandate so that they can make their decisions.
Yeah, thank you for sharing about the dual mandate. I think that's important for listeners as well. So great explanation there. And you touched on inflation rates. I think that as well as interest rates have been a major storyline for businesses the past few years. Where do things stand now with interest rates, and what should businesses in the region maybe be anticipating in the months ahead, in your opinion?
In terms of where things stand on the interest rates, the Fed sets what is called what is known as the policy rate, and that's plays a role in the commercial rates that are experienced by consumers. In the last couple of years, that rate has been the Fed has been acting to lower that rate in a few occasions. And in terms of where that's going to go over the next 6 months, I don't know. You and I are going to find out at the same time when the Federal Open Market Committee gets together and decides on what direction to take. But I will tell you that they will be doing that based on the data, based on what the data is telling policymakers. I shared a little bit about inflation and the labor market. They were looking at that and everything else that needs to be taken into consideration in order to make a decision. But again, you and I are probably going to find out at the same time, what's in store for the future.
Sure, that makes sense. Well, we will watch for that in the coming weeks and months as well. Thank you so much, Eric, for joining us. What a treat to have the Federal Reserve represented in our podcast. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And really looking forward to having President Kashkari and other members of the Fed team here later this week. And you're always invited back to our region. So thanks so much, Eric. We appreciate having you.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Awesome. And with that, we're going to head to a break, and then we will come back and have more of a conversation with Ray and Mike. Stick around. Welcome back to the Chamber Link, where we're excited to continue the economic conversation that we started. Did a little welcome with Ray and Mike here, and then had a conversation with Eric Garcia Luna from the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis. So that was a great conversation. I'm excited to get both of your takes on that as well. But to jump back in, maybe let's start, Mike, talking a little bit more about Cardinal IG. You gave us a good overview about Cardinal IG, a little bit about it. But I'd love to talk a little bit more about how you've become known for hiring a remarkably diverse workforce. You have many teammates from around the world that are contributing to production. Can you talk a little bit about that, about your workforce?
Sure. Well, we've always hired the best qualified candidates from amongst the candidate pool. And it just so happens that 70% of our team was born outside of the United States. And so we have teammates born on 6 of the 7 continents in 35 different birth countries, practicing the 4 major world religions, plus some other religions, speaking many native languages. And that said, the diversity of our team does not divide us. It, we all come together to satisfy a goal.
Yeah.
To make money by thrilling our customers with our product and our service, and taking care of our teammates.
Yeah, it's impressive, I have to say, when you have given a tour, just to see all of the different backgrounds come together for a greater goal is really cool to see. So kudos on that, and keep doing what you're doing really well over there.
Well, thanks.
Workforce. Ray, one of the things I want to talk to you a little bit about, you gave us a little overview of Old National Bank, which was great. We were talking in the lobby a little bit before this about the fact that it's maybe a new brand in this region, not new across the Midwest of the country, but new in our region specifically. But the faces behind it, the local team that's been there, the relationships were really established through Bremer and have carried through. So can you talk a little bit about how maybe Old National views this market, what businesses can expect, kind of how that transition's gone?
Absolutely. Yeah, as I had mentioned before, Old National has a rich history in the Midwest, new to North Dakota. 1834 is when Old National Bank started in Evansville. A lot of similarities between Bremer and Old National. We're relationship-based businesses, have similar cultures, which value giving back to communities. It was a tremendous compliment for footprint and geography to combine Bremer and Old National Bank. There was very low overlap as far as the markets are concerned, so it was a great opportunity to expand the geography for the two companies. And as I had mentioned before, we have great people that support the communities where each of our employees lives and works, so very complementary there. We're excited about North Dakota, obviously. Diverse economics, similar to much similar to the rest of the Midwest geography, and so excited to be here. We are primarily focused on businesses and ag producers. Bremer was a large ag lender. Old National had an ag lending presence as well, and so combined, we are the 7th largest ag lender in the nation, and so we're proud of that and intend to continue helping farmers and agribusinesses in the Midwest. Businesses can expect to see the employees volunteering in the communities just like we did before. When the partnership was announced, there was a $1.6 billion community growth plan that Old National laid out, and that's essentially based at serving underserved and economically disadvantaged communities in the upper Midwest. That's part of a broader $11.1 billion goal that Old National Bank has, and what those additional dollars will do is it'll support affordable housing, small business growth, and financial access for individuals that don't have that today. So you'll not only see the financial investment from Old National Bank, but you'll also see the volunteerism and the community work that our employees do. One example of that is each year for a week, Old National Bank sponsors what we call Better Together Days. And so what that involves is it involves the entire Old National Bank Corporation, all of our employees volunteering during 1 week to support our local nonprofits. So in 2025, for example, we had 2,100 team members donate 8,000 hours of volunteer work in 1 week alone, and that supported 200 nonprofits across our footprint. So we're very proud of that. It will be an annual occurrence, so we'll be looking forward in 2026 again.
That's great. That's awesome to hear the reinvestment both through volunteerism as well as the dollars back into the community. So thanks for what you're doing, and again, keep up that. Both of great business leaders here in studio with me, so I feel very lucky to be able to talk to both of you about this topic today. We have a couple minutes here before our next break. I want to jump into kind of initial reactions maybe from what Eric just shared with us, talking about the economic landscape. Is what he described aligned with what you're both seeing and feeling here on the ground? He talked about that resilient economy. Is that what you're seeing, Mike, or what would you say as far as reactions to Eric's thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we'd love it if the Fed would lower their lending rate and if Old National would lower their mortgage rates, being in the residential window industry. But we're very fortunate to be in that industry because overall the U.S. is largely underbuilt with respect to homes. And additionally, there's over 40 million homes out there that were built more than 40 years ago. And many of those have windows with single pane or clear-on-clear IG units. And so if those homeowners want to, save a lot of money on heating and cooling costs, then they're going to want to replace those windows. So we're gonna see steady growth, really, regardless of where lending rates are.
Mm-hmm. That's a good outlook for 2026 and helpful to hear. We're going to go to another break here, but when we get back, get ready because we're going to have Ray comment on his thoughts with Eric, and then I have some hard-hitting economic questions for you both. So stick around. We'll be back in just a few seconds here. All right, welcome back. We're going to continue our conversation about the economy here. Just kind of got initial reactions from Eric's opening remarks about the economy from Mike. Ray, I want your thoughts as well. Talk to us a little bit about your thoughts of what Eric shared with us. Does that economic landscape align with what you're seeing from your seat here with banking?
It does for the most part. I would say what we're more susceptible here in the Midwest to is obviously a heavy reliance on ag and ag-related industries, and that business activity certainly correlates to many other industries and has a huge impact on the future of the Midwest economy. And in late 2025 marked the biggest 3-month price cost gap for farmers in 10 years, and they have been experiencing for the most part a cost deficit since 2015. So that certainly isn't sustainable and that will have a big impact on the Midwest economy as it relates to other business activity. So something fairly unique to the Midwest versus the rest of the nation. And, we agree with his opinion on the inflation and employment will dictate where rates go. So we don't have, a lot of people like Mike want to see rates go down. What we see the role of the Fed being for the banking system and for Old National Bank is just to provide a stable money supply to the banking system and liquidity also to the banking system in times of stress, which they've done in the past. So market forces will determine where rates are, but the two key fundamental roles that the Fed can play for banks are those two areas. The other thing that I would mention, his unemployment rate percentage, we've always been much, much lower than national averages. I think the last statistic I saw for North Dakota was 2.6%, which is well below the national average for unemployment. So those are some interesting aspects to the economy locally here versus the entire Midwest or nationally.
Absolutely. You bring up some really great points that are very unique to our region, and region can be expanded beyond just the Fargo-Moorhead area. But
Yeah, could I jump in here?
yeah, please do.
Yeah, so, we're very fortunate in the Fargo-Moorhead, West Fargo metro. We have the 11th most diverse metro economy in the country, despite being the 186th biggest metro. Mm-hmm. And so that means that our employment is distributed across industries a lot more than in other areas. So when one sector is down, another is up, mm-hmm. and it really protects jobs. And I think that's a huge reason why our region has been lower than has had a lower than average unemployment rate.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up and had the data in front of you. I didn't know that specific statistic, but certainly the fact that, when there's those changes in the economy, we're a little bit more resilient to it. So as Eric talked about resilient economy, I was like, that tracks with what we're seeing, and maybe even a little bit more here than other areas of the country sometimes. And, the things that you brought up that are very unique to us locally that sometimes we forget about is just how important that impact of agriculture is here that maybe the rest of the country doesn't always feel, being that we are such a powerhouse with agriculture and there's so many industries tied to that, right? So that is very important. And the workforce piece of it, right? We're always trying to attract and retain talent to this region. The Chamber just hosted a workforce forum in January, and that was a big topic of it, right? Is we're talking to HR recruiters, how can we get more people interested in this region and then sticking around when they get here? And a lot of it isn't hard to have them stick around when they get here, right? We know that it's a matter of coming and seeing the region, and that helps with it. So appreciate those thoughts, Ray, and sharing a little bit more, and you jumping in too, Mike. Like I said, I want this to be a conversation, so please add in with comments from each other. Mike, I do want to know kind of your thoughts on, as we talk about national economic trends such as the labor market that we just talked about, our monetary policy, inflation rate, those different things. How does that affect manufacturers here in the upper Midwest? Like, what does that policy transition to actual decisions here on the ground?
Yeah, well, there is a national labor shortage, and it's not gonna get better. It's gonna only get worse. And despite the fact that many of us manufacturers here in the region feel like things are really tight, we're actually doing better than average with respect to attracting people to move to our region. And the thing is, our economy is so robust here that it's growing at a faster pace than the workforce. And so, that's why we need to take active measures to help recruit people to move to our region. It's a great place to live.
Absolutely. And so maybe a plug with that for Innovate 28, which is a partnership between the Chamber and EDC, where one of the goals is around workforce, and the EDC leads on attracting the people here, and then the Chamber takes it from there and is really working on developing and retaining that employment. So if you don't know much about Innovate 28, would encourage you to look into that. Leaders like Mike are at the table helping us craft solutions on the issues that we're talking about today. So that's pretty cool to bring that into the conversation. Ray, as we talk about economic issues from your vantage point, I know you talked a little bit about it, but can you talk kind of more broadly, since you see a lot of businesses throughout the region from your vantage point in banking, kind of what are businesses navigating right now all across the spectrum of industries?
So I would say the biggest theme that businesses are navigating is certainly uncertainty at levels that we don't appear to have seen for a number of years in the rapid pace of change. Tariffs, for example, they're on again, off again, and so that makes it very difficult for businesses to plan. So the uncertainty from the economy, tariffs, policy, politics, workforce, that's made it difficult for businesses to plan, leaving them to hold off on hiring or capital expansion or plant expansion, business investments. So we have seen a slowdown in that. And then I think just higher operating costs are a huge issue as well. And a lot of us point to the interest rates, and that's kind of the sole variable on whether business activity can move forward or not. Interest rates where they're at now are at, historically speaking, a pretty good number. I think it's all relative with the fact that rates were near zero, half of what they were 2 or 3 years ago. So I think we're getting used to a higher rate level, but historically speaking, it's average. But you include, in addition to interest costs, all the other operating costs that are increasing for businesses, cost of goods sold for many businesses through tariffs, higher health care, I think, for many businesses are 15% plus for an increase. And so it's compounding, not just the interest expense, but all the other operating expenses for businesses. So, and that, quite frankly, is that leaves businesses with a decision on, do we raise prices and risk affecting our level of sales, or do we hold the line on the prices and have it cut into our profit margin? So that's a big question that a lot of businesses are facing right now. And maybe it's a balance, maybe it's a little bit of both. And then certainly as Mike had referenced, the labor shortages. We have an aging workforce. We have decreased immigration, also making it harder to fill open positions. So with the labor force that we do have, it's going to be imperative that we make the labor force we do have more productive. And we're seeing some of that from AI. Opportunities, not to talk about all the challenges, we have opportunities as well. As we're seeing in the Midwest, we're perfect conditions for data centers, whether you're for or against them. It's happening all around us. We have plenty of energy in the ground, sparse population. Climate alone is conducive. So I think we have to really think about those development opportunities and all the ancillary business that can be generated from that. You talk about suppliers, logistics, services, industrial real estate, skilled labor. Many other business revenue can be generated from projects like that. And then certainly the other opportunity with a small labor pool is utilizing AI and automation in business operations. So I think we'll see more and more of that quicker and quicker, just to make our productivity increase with the workforce that we do have. In other opportunities, I think we will see potentially a slight decrease in borrowing costs. And so if you combine that with some of the tax incentives that have been extended, for instance, the 100% bonus depreciation, businesses can write off 100% of their investment in property, plant, and equipment. So if you combine those two aspects, that might be enough to encourage businesses to move forward in a growth mode versus retaining capital for uncertainties.
Yeah, I'm glad that you outlined some of those challenges as well as the opportunities we're hearing. When we were planning for the summit that's coming up on Thursday, one of the things that we were really intentional about in the opening is to address the fact that not everything's rainbows, right? We have a lot of challenges that we're facing, the uncertainty of the economy right now, but the fact that our region's never been defined by those challenges, and that we are coming together as leaders to figure out how we can, make the best of them, look at the opportunities, and move forward as a stronger region. So thank you for outlining those and adding in some of the positive momentum in there as well. We're going to take a break, but when we get back, I want to touch more on AI that you talked about and then close it out talking more about the summit. So stick around and we'll be back in another minute here. Welcome back to the Chamber Link. We were just chatting about some of the opportunities and challenges of our regional economy here. And Ray, thanks so much for laying some of those out that you've seen kind of from your vantage point in business banking. Mike, I want to hear how that impacts as a business leader here in our region. Specifically, as Ray talked about AI and workforce, it made me think about your operation over there and what you guys are doing at Cardinal IG. Can you talk about how are you keeping up with AI and the tech transformation that we're seeing?
Yeah, sure. Well, at Cardinal IG, we're developing AI to help increase our team's efficiencies. We currently use humans to collect data, and then we adjust our processes based upon that data. So that takes a while. It takes, time to not only collect the data, but analyze it and then make decisions as to what to do. And we're now using computers to recognize those same trends and automatically make adjustments to our machines. So it really increases the quality of the insulating glass units that we're producing. This is currently in its infancy, but we're beginning to deploy the technology. We have an engineer assigned to our corporate IT team whose sole job is to develop and deploy this technology.
That's awesome. When you talk about this, what does that mean for your teammates, for those people that have those jobs right now? What does it look like for the evolution of their job?
Really, people are so worried that AI is going to take people's jobs, and to me, AI is going to result in job security. The higher quality IG units we can make, the better units we can make for our window customers, the better off we're going to be as a supplier to them, and just create that job stability for our teammates.
That's a great way to look at it. That's awesome. I want to make sure we talk a little bit about the economic summit. I know we've been talking economics all morning here, but we have a summit coming up in 2 short days where we're going to dig further into the things that we have just been talking about here today. So first off, I want to turn to Ray, as Old National Bank has been our premier sponsor for years, back when it was Bremer, and now has carried that forward as Old National. So thank you for your premier sponsorship. I want to know a little bit more, though, about what makes this event a priority for your organization, and what are you looking forward to of the conversations at the summit on Thursday?
Sure. So I'm looking forward to the entire summit. It's going to be a great event. As Catherine had mentioned, Bremer and now Old National Bank, we've been a sponsor of the summit since inception in 2012, and we've been the premier sponsor for 5 years now, back to 2022. So what we see the priority being is there's real value in creating space for leaders to learn from one another, and so that's what this summit does. And obviously in the banking industry, we're highly concerned and in tune with the economic environment, so it's a perfect chamber event for Old National Bank to sponsor, and we're proud to sponsor it. One of the many great networking events that the chamber puts on, so we're thrilled to be a part of it. Specifically looking forward to, in our business, oftentimes we're problem solvers, solution providers for our businesses, and so being able to hear not only the challenges but the opportunities that businesses are working on, and then being able to take that back to our business and provide solutions or solve a problem for a client or somebody that we want to do business with. We see a great amount of value in that. Certainly looking forward to Neil Kashkari and our CEO Jim Ryan being able to moderate a fireside chat with Neil. So his economic roadmap, what he sees around inflation, GDP, labor markets policy, that'll be a great segment. And then certainly the industry-specific insights. We'll be hearing from manufacturing, healthcare, and hospitality as well. So those are major economic engines for the Midwest region. So very excited about that. And then finally, last but not least, the Midwest growth equation. So specifically focusing on talent, attention, and retraction, which is vital in any business in the Midwest, and so certainly looking forward to hear the insights from that segment as well.
Perfect. Look at that, recapping the whole agenda. Thank you so much for doing that. And there's certainly a lot to look forward to. One of the things you mentioned that I want to get your thoughts on, Mike, was those industry insights. So we do Midwest summits throughout the year, but we're going to dive into 3 critical industries that we don't do a separate summit for, which, as you mentioned, Ray, are healthcare, hospitality, and manufacturing. So being in that manufacturing industry, I'm interested, Mike, your thoughts on kind of what would you say that you're expecting here as far as the current state of manufacturing in the Midwest? If you had to give me a short recap of that, what would you say the road ahead looks like?
Well, we're excited to hear about what President Kashkari has to say on Thursday morning. And, we're excited about the state of manufacturing in the region. As I said, we have that diverse economy, so it keeps our economy rolling in the region. And what's really excited, and it was touched on, is that we're going to have all these business leaders in the same room, and which is going to be great.
It's going to be awesome. We're very excited, and I'm glad you mentioned that because there's still room for others to join the conversation as well. So for those interested in joining Thursday's Midwest Economic Outlook Summit, you can find the tickets online, or you can watch our free live stream on our website at fmwfchamber.com. There's the in-person opportunity that will take place at the Red River Valley Fairgrounds. It will be from 8 to 11 a.m. And as Ray mentioned, it's a great networking opportunity too. So I would encourage you, if you're able to and in this region, come out and join us in person for it. But, of course, virtual listening to the live stream is great as well if you want to catch Neil Kashkari or any of the other pieces of the event as well. So we have just a couple minutes to wrap up here. I want to end on a note of optimism as we look forward for the economy. So I'd like to ask each of you, what gives you optimism about the Midwest economy going into this next year of 2026? Who wants to start?
Well, I just like to...
Mike's ready. Go for it.
I just like to say that, the company, many of the companies that are going to be there on Thursday are the same companies that are investing in Innovate 28, the joint partnership between the Chamber and the EDC that you brought up. And that's the purpose is not only to recruit new primary sector businesses, but also attract the necessary workforce to run those businesses. And then the third leg to Innovate 28 is public policy, ensuring that our policymakers that are shaping the region's future continue to have a business-friendly outlook and fuel that business-friendly ecosystem that we have here in North Dakota. And for those businesses that aren't currently investing in Innovate 28, it's not too late. We need you to be part of the solution. And so I'd encourage you to contact either the EDC or the Chamber to get on board.
Oh, thank you, Mike. I'm glad that you threw that in there. That wasn't even a scripted thing I asked you to do, so I appreciate it. And it is a very powerful collaboration, so appreciate hearing those comments and would echo, reach out to us, and we're happy to have a conversation. How about optimism from this side of the table? Ray, what do you got?
Well, I was really optimistic up until today with the weather that we've been having, but that's about to change, which is to be expected for the Midwest in February. But I think the key for the Midwest economy is diversification, as Mike had mentioned before. We're diversified so we can weather the downturns. But, there's a lot of economic indicators that point to opposite optimism next year. GDP is projected to increase 2 to 3%. Inflation seems to be getting in check. We've got more labor productivity from the workforce that we currently have. And consumer spending, there's some retroactive tax relief for 25 and lower withholding in 2026. So with low inflation, real disposable income should be up for consumers. So a lot of optimism to look forward to.
That's great. Thanks so much, Ray. And thank you both for being here on the show. Appreciate it, Mike and Ray, as well as Eric joining us at the beginning. That will be a wrap for our show today. Join us in a couple weeks when we're going to dig into the next conversation with Shannon Full, talking with the Executive Director of the airport, as well as Airport Authority Chair. We'll be talking about the airport next time. Thanks so much. Have a great day.